In the fast-moving world of Bitcoin, it's not every day you see something make a comeback like this,
Hmm.
especially something, well, pretty crucial like a wallet. But that is exactly what we saw happen in April of 2025.
Right, with Phoenix Wallet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Phoenix Wallet reappeared on US app stores. And for anyone listening who's exploring Bitcoin, maybe thinking about self-custody, holding your own keys, this is actually a really significant development.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for folks who maybe aren't familiar, Phoenix Wallet is a really user-friendly Lightning Network wallet.
Hmm.
It's designed to make Bitcoin transactions, well, lightning fast, basically, and super cheap.
Right, the fees are tiny.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
its disappearance from U.S. app stores back in May 2024. That definitely caused a stir, raised a lot of questions about, what's going on with regulations.
Oh, yeah.
So its return is definitely a story worth digging into.
It really was like a mystery, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just gone 1 minute and then bam, back again.
Pretty much.
So for this deep dive, we've got a pretty clear mission, I think. We want to understand the real reasons behind Phoenix Wallet coming back to U.S. app stores.
Right.
And maybe more broadly, what is the signal about the shifting regulatory landscape for Bitcoin right here in the U.S.?
We've got a good source for this.
We do. Matthew Crowder's article from Bitcoin University seems like our main guide here. It offers a really solid update on the whole situation.
Yeah, and that article really nails the central point. Phoenix Wallet's return. It wasn't just some random thing.
Well, coincidence.
Not at all. It's directly linked to a specific policy shift. The key moment seems to be the issuance of a new memo. This was in April 2025 by the Trump administration.
Okay.
And the title is pretty telling, Ending Regulation by Prosecution. This document, well, this is the real catalyst, the reason Phoenix is available again.
Okay, ending regulation by prosecution, that definitely sounds like a fundamental change.
Yeah.
So what's the core idea, the principle behind it?
Well, as I understand it, the idea is really to move away from targeting platforms or, services simply because some individuals might misuse them.
Right, shifting the focus.
Exactly. The focus shifts more to the actions of the individuals doing wrong rather than punishing the creators of the tools themselves.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the parallel the memo seems to draw with Section 230.
Oh, like for tech platforms, social media and stuff.
Precisely. Think about how Section 230 basically allowed the internet to flourish, right, by generally protecting online platforms from liability for user-generated content.
Yeah, a huge deal for the early internet.
Absolutely. So this memo, it kind of signals a potential parallel path for Bitcoin and digital assets. It suggests this belief that, look, innovation shouldn't be stifled just by the fear of how others might misuse the technology.
So it could be a really fundamental shift in how regulators view these decentralized systems.
It could be. And the memo itself uses some very direct language. It states, and this is pretty key, the Department of Justice is not a digital assets regulator.
Wow, okay.
And it goes on, the department will no longer pursue litigation or enforcement actions that have the effect of superimposing regulatory frameworks on digital assets.
That's incredibly clear. So no more trying to force these new technologies into old regulatory boxes just by going after the developers or the platforms.
That seems to be the message. And
Yeah.
it gets even more specific, which is really telling.
How so?
The memo explicitly states that the department will no longer target virtual currency exchanges, mixing and tumbling services, and offline wallets.
Offline wallets. Okay.
Now, Phoenix Wallet, it's a self-custodial Lightning wallet. That means you, the user, you control your own keys.
Right, non-custodial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that definitionally falls under that umbrella, perhaps, of offline wallets in the sense that it's not like a hosted exchange holding your Bitcoin for you.
Gotcha. So you can see a very direct line then from this specific policy wording to Phoenix being able to come back.
It looks that way, yeah. A very clear connection.
And this memo, it didn't just appear out of thin air, did it? The article mentions it aligns with Executive Order 14178. What's the link there?
Right, good point. Connecting it to the bigger picture, Executive Order 14178, its core goal was really about protecting fundamental rights of individuals and entities in the digital asset space.
Okay, like what kind of rights?
Well, several key things. The right to develop and use open source software. I mean, that's the bedrock for so many Bitcoin tools, right?
Definitely.
Also, the right to maintain self-custody of your digital assets, so you are in control of your private keys.
Super important for Bitcoin ethos.
Critical. And the right to engage in transactions freely. So this ending regulation by prosecution memo, it really looks like it's putting those principles from the EO into actual practice, providing a clearer, perhaps safer legal framework for these kinds of activities.
That makes a lot of sense because I remember back when Phoenix Wallet was initially pulled, a major worry was whether Async, the developers, would get classified as a money services business, right? An
Uh,
MSB.
oh, absolutely. That fear was entirely legitimate.
And that label MSB, it comes with a whole load of baggage, doesn't it? Regulatory stuff, legal headaches.
Huge baggage.
Hmm.
Under U.S. law, the definition of a money services business, it's quite broad. It can cover entities providing money transmission services.
Okay.
And there was this very real concern that providing a non-custodial wallet or even just facilitating Lightning transactions could somehow be interpreted as falling under that MSB definition.
Even if they never touch the user's funds directly.
That was the worry.
Mm.
And if they were deemed an MSB, that would trigger significant compliance requirements.
Yeah.
Things like KYC, Know Your Customer, AML, anti-money laundering procedures.
Yeah, the stuff exchanges have to do.
Exactly. And even the risk of serious enforcement actions, which is, frankly, a massive burden and a huge risk for any developer, especially smaller teams working in this space.
Yeah, it really highlights the kind of tricky, sometimes risky position developers building on Bitcoin have found themselves in.
For sure.
The article even brings up some, well, pretty stark examples, like the developers behind Samourai Wallet facing charges.
Right. That was a big one.
And the prosecution of Roman Storm, a co-founder of Tornado Cash. These were cases where individuals building open source software were directly targeted.
And this really brings up a fundamental question, doesn't it, about the nature of software itself and where responsibility should lie.
Yeah, like, is code speech? Is building a tool the same as using it?
Precisely. The article, I think, rightly describes prosecuting developers just for creating tools as, well, absurd. And it warns against what it calls lawfare.
Lawfare, using the legal system as a weapon, basically.
Yeah, essentially weaponizing the legal system to attack or stifle innovation, or maybe just go after people whose technology might be used in ways the government doesn't approve of.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. The implication that just writing code could somehow become a criminal act if someone, somewhere down the line, uses that code illegally.
It's a dangerous path.
Which I guess leads perfectly into that analogy they use in the article, the one about tools versus actions.
Yes, the kitchen knife analogy.
Yeah. It's like saying you wouldn't prosecute the company that made a kitchen knife if someone unfortunately used it to commit a crime, right?
Exactly. The tool itself isn't inherently the problem. It's the intention, the actions of the person using it.
So it raises this fundamental question about responsibility.
Yeah.
Where does it really lie when you have technology that can be used for both good and bad?
That analogy works so well because, well, everyone gets it. A software wallet, just like a knife, it's a tool. It has perfectly legitimate, beneficial uses.
Like peer-to-peer payments.
Peer-to-peer transactions, yeah.
Yeah.
Facilitating tiny micropayments on Lightning, empowering individuals to take direct control of their own finances.
Real financial sovereignty.
Exactly. And holding the creators of these tools responsible for how every single user might act. That creates a really significant chilling effect on innovation. It can stifle the development of genuinely beneficial technologies.
So this policy shift, this memo, it's trying to change that whole dynamic then. What are the broader implications the article points to? It feels like it's about more than just Phoenix Wallet getting back into the App Store.
Oh, definitely. Connecting this to the bigger picture, the article suggests this policy change really aims to foster innovation right here in the U.S.
Okay, how so?
Well, by establishing a clearer, more predictable legal landscape for developers, the hope is presumably to encourage them to build and deploy these technologies domestically.
Right, keep the talent in the building here.
Exactly. Positioning America, perhaps, as a leader in Bitcoin development. And importantly, the focus shifts away from just broadly targeting the infrastructure creators.
Like the wallet developers.
Yeah. Yeah, and towards targeting the actual bad actors who misuse these tools. The idea seems to be encouraging lawful behavior by making it very clear who the real targets of law enforcement are.
So it's less about the tech itself and more about criminal use of the tech.
That seems to be the direction. And this could also potentially pave the way for more complex self-custody solutions, maybe even privacy-enhancing technologies, to be developed without that constant fear of, legal blowback.
That makes a lot of sense. Creating an environment where innovation can actually happen without this constant shadow of being penalized for something totally outside your control.
Precisely.
And the article wraps up with this really pertinent quote. It says, "Bitcoin is permissionless, We don't need the government's approval to use it, but it sure helps when doing so isn't criminalized.
That really hits a nail on the head, doesn't it?
It really sums up the impact, I think. It's about that legal clarity, allowing for the practical use of a technology that, at its core, doesn't ask for permission.
Absolutely. Bitcoin, by its very nature, it operates outside traditional financial systems.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a green light from any central authority to function.
But the real world intrudes.
But the real world, the legal and regulatory environment, that can either massively help its adoption and use, or it can create huge roadblocks.
Right.
And this memo, it really signals a move towards a more, shall we say, facilitative approach, at least when it comes to developing and providing fundamental Bitcoin infrastructure like these self-custodial wallets.
And hey, for anyone listening who's now thinking, okay, Phoenix Wallet sounds interesting, maybe I should check it out.
Yeah.
The article actually includes some resource links, right?
It does, yeah. For those who are curious, want to explore it more, the article provides direct download links for Phoenix Wallet.
Handy.
And it also points to some of Matthew Crowder's earlier tutorials. There's a good intro to Phoenix Wallet and the Lightning Network generally,
Oh, cool.
and also a more in-depth guide on using its specific features. Plus, a helpful comparison of different Lightning wallets out there.
Okay, so plenty to explore.
Definitely. So yeah, resources are there if people want to learn more or, try it out for themselves.
So just to kind of wrap this up for everyone listening, the big takeaway here isn't just about one specific wallet coming back to the app stores, as cool as that is.
Right, it's bigger than that.
It really is about the much broader significance of this apparent shift in policy. It really underscores this idea that clear, fair regulation,
Yeah.
moving away from prosecuting based on fear of potential misuse, that's absolutely vital for a healthy, thriving digital economy.
Couldn't agree more.
Government policies, they just have such a powerful influence, don't they? They can either empower innovation in decentralized tech like Bitcoin or, well, as we saw with the initial removal, they can unfortunately stifle it.
Precisely. It really highlights that delicate balance, doesn't it? That crucial balance between, on the one hand, ensuring responsible use of technology, and on the other, allowing the space for beneficial innovation to actually flourish. This memo, it really appears to be a significant step towards recognizing that distinction, particularly in the context of Bitcoin and, the core principles of self-custody.
So thinking about this shift, this different approach, it makes you wonder what other areas within this huge landscape of decentralized technology might we see similar developments, DeFi, maybe other protocols?
That's a great question.
And what does all this mean for that ongoing tension, that push and pull between individual control and regulatory oversight as these technologies keep evolving and, frankly, become more integrated into our lives? It really gives you something to think about, doesn't it? Where that balance will ultimately land.